Hi everyone, welcome to Rcsa's first virtual president panel. We're all super excited to have you here and we hope that you have some questions ready for us. Before we begin, we'll first introduce ourselves. I'm Nicole, an Rcsa Events Committee member, and I will be your host for today's panel. Mavish and Will, if you could introduce yourselves.
Yes, of course. So thank you so much to everyone joining us. My name is Mavish. I am the Rcsa president. I am a fourth-year student specializing in public accounting. And just a fun fact about me is I'm super obsessed with singing Taylor Swift songs, but really, really badly. So we'll not be sharing that today. Will, I'll let you take it over.
Yep, and I'm a fourth-year student, obviously commerce as well, studying management, and I'm the vice president of the Rcsa for this upcoming year. And fun fact is, recently I've been drinking a ton of coffee, and I'm starting to feel that I like the essence of me is actually just coffee at this point.
In your blood.
Exactly.
So today we'll be getting to know some of the academic groups available at Rotman Commerce. The purpose of this event is to learn about the president's different experiences in their specific organizations, as well as their personal development. So quick rundown of the event, we'll have a panel discussion with presidents from 6 different academic groups, and then finish off with an open Q&A session. And we know that intern applications are due in about 2 days. So if you have any questions about any of the academic groups, advice in general, or personal experiences, please feel free to leave a comment in the chat and we'll be answering them right after the main panel discussion. Yeah.
Perfect. And also a note on that, if you can just leave them in the chat throughout, and also if you put live beside it, we will also kind of take your question live, and you can ask it live as well. So okay. Perfect. And also just a note that the event will be recorded, so you can kind of look back on it, or and for those who missed it, obviously it'll be available on our website as well. So okay. So now I think we'll move on to introducing our panelists.
Yes. All right, so I think, wait, Nicole, are you taking it over?
Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So we'd like to go through all of the panelists and make sure they get a chance to introduce themselves, their names, their years, the organization that they're part of, and a fun fact, just like Will and I did. So as you can see on the screen, we'll let Itamar go first.
Hi, my name is Itamar, and I'm the president of the innovation group. I'm in my 4th year and I'm specializing in public accounting. A fun fact about me is I can play 7 different instruments.
Whoa, geez. What are they? Tell us, please.
We're gonna make a go list them right now. Clarinet is like my favorite. Piano, guitar. I could play the flute, the violin, the trumpet.
Jeez.
And I can also play like the bass of like the clarinet as well. But like, I'm trying to think of what other instruments I could play right now, but none of them are coming.
Got everything I think that you needed. That's insane. Wow, super talented.
Thank you.
Yeah, Annabeth, do you want to go next?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm currently a 3rd-year commerce student specializing in management, and I'm the president for RCL this year. So I guess a fun fact about myself is that I spent a lot of time during quarantine watching a lot of puppy videos. So I'm finally getting my own puppy in 2 weeks. So yeah, I'm very excited.
That's so adorable. Oh my God, congrats to you. Arbab, do you want to go next?
Yeah, how's it going, everyone? My name is Arbab. I'm in my 4th year in the accounting specialist, and I'm the president for the Accounting Society. Fun fact about me is I'm actually really into gardening, and my whole family calls me an old man because of that. But it's like a really cool way to like release stress and just like a good time.
It is, honestly. I wish I had the energy to do that. Just for a note, RCIG stands for the Innovation Group, RCEO stands for the Entrepreneurship Organization, and like Arbab said, RCAS is the Accounting Society. All right, we'll go on to Anne next.
Hi everyone, my name is Anne and I'm a fourth year specializing in Finance and Econ, and I'm the president of the Finance Association. And one fun fact about me is that I've learned 4 different languages.
Holy, do you want to tell us what they are?
So I'm originally from born and raised in Vietnam, so I speak Vietnamese as my mother tongue, and then I learned English, I learned French, and then went to university. I wanted to learn an Asian language, but then Chinese was too difficult, so I picked Korean. So yeah.
Jeez. Oh my God, I really want to be fluent in French, so maybe I'll get some tips.
I'm not fluent.
All right, well, whatever you have is better than me. Okay, Ashley, do you want to go next?
Yeah, hey everybody, nice to meet you guys. My name is Ashley. I'm the president this year for the Consulting Association. I'm also in my 4th year. I'm specializing in finance and economics. And I guess one fun fact about me, although it's not as cool as anybody else's so far, is that I've actually been in all 3 specializations at one point. So that's definitely, if you have any questions about that, definitely feel free to ask.
That is so cool. We definitely have questions about specialists, so you better be answering that. That's so interesting. Wow. All right, Susanna.
All right, thanks, Mavish. So hi, everyone. My name is Susanna, and I am the Vice President of the Rotman Commerce Marketing Association. Unfortunately, Julia couldn't make it today, so I'm her placeholder. I'm going into my 4th year. I specialize in finance and economics, and a fun fact about me is that I can put my ear in my ear. If anyone would like to see it, please let me know. But if not, we'll just move on.
I think we all want to see it. How do you put it in your ear?
All right. Do you guys see my ear right now?
Yes. What?
Oh my God.
Holy.
That's
Okay, well,
amazing.
wow, y'all beat us with your fun facts. Very interesting to get to know all of you. I'm so excited that we have lots of questions in store, so I'll definitely let Will take it away with our next question.
Okay, so I think a lot of our first years are probably curious about joining your organizations, and at this point, we would just like to hear about what exactly is the main goal and vision of your specific group, and kind of how is it different from the other ones. And to start, maybe we'll just go with go in the same order again.
Oh, should I start?
Well, looks like you are first in the order.
Well, hey, it could have been you, Mavish.
Okay, true. I'll answer after.
Yeah, so kind of just put together innovation is always a tough task. I feel like everyone kind of defines it differently, but for me personally, it's just shedding light on different topics that are kind of going around and are being very popularized right now, or ones that aren't being popularized at all, kind of ones that are not being shed as much light to. Personally this year, like the main task of RCAG has been to kind of shed light on the different topics. So for example, kind of going into more bigger ranges and then showing different professionals and kind of showcasing what they do, and also trying to figure out a way for students to kind of see what type of professions they can be going into. So kind of going more past that, kind of how it relates to students is a pretty big part in kind of our goal.
Awesome. Yeah. RCIG has a very kind of interesting mandate and a very broad range of kind of spans a lot of industries as well. So it's super interesting. And so next we have Annabeth. So could you talk to us a little bit about RCO?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the primary goals at RCO is that we realize from a lot of the courses that we learn in school, that doesn't teach us how to start our own company. And at RCO, we sort of bridge that gap. So we provide students with the resources to teach them, okay, if you want to start your own company, here are some resources, incubators to take a look into. This is how you pitch an idea to an investor. So potentially in the future, if you're interested in launching your own projects, initiative, that's all available for you there. So our goal is really to bridge that gap between students who are looking to start their own company and to make that really into a reality.
Okay. Wow. Entrepreneurship. Yeah, RCO has been doing a lot of really cool stuff already, and it's just been a couple of weeks into the school year. So looking forward to a lot of other really cool events throughout the year. So next we have Rcsa, and Arba, do you want to give us kind of your main goals and visions?
Yeah, so everything we do in Rcsa is surrounded by our 3 pillars. It's to educate, develop, and connect. Really what we're trying to do is we're trying to create events that can educate students about the CPA designation and the various amount of paths available within accounting. We're trying to develop students into professionals to make sure they have all the soft skills required when you go to a networking event or when you go to that interview. And lastly, we want to connect them with as many professionals as we can from the accounting industry, so hopefully they can land their summer internship or their full-time offer. And that's pretty much everything we do is surrounded by these 3 pillars. So like our events, all of our initiatives, those are their main goals and visions for it.
Cool, cool. We also, the RCSA also has 3 pillars, so we'll kind of compare and contrast between the 3 pillars that we have. So next we have RCFA, and Anne, do you want to talk to us a little bit about RCFA?
Yeah, sure. I think the main point of RCFA is just that, finance can be quite a competitive industry and it can get intimidating when you're a student trying to break into the industry. So I think RCFA events mainly helped bridge that gap between finance and students at Rotman. And I think we mostly focus on like offering events where it's more like a panel discussion for you guys to explore different options in finance, not just traditional capital market roles like investment banking or sales and trading, but other, finance role that's available out there. And yeah, I think mostly just preparing you guys with the soft skill and the hard skill required if you want to break into the industry.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, RCFA definitely has a lot of really, really great prep for those interested in finance specifically. And I think, yeah, a lot of really cool events for sure. And next, Ashley for RCCA, could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. My internet is still strong because it just wavered a bit. But the goal of RCCA is to basically, sorry, I'm not sure.
A little bit of connection issue.
I'm lagging. Hello?
You definitely cut off a little bit. If you want to start over, maybe we can hear you a bit better.
Sorry, is it working now?
Yeah.
Yep, we're good now.
Yeah, so sorry about that. I feel like I have a twin brother with me and he's probably watching Netflix. So anyways, I'll just start from the beginning. So yeah, so the goal of RCCA is to create a safe and supportive environment to connect students with the resources and opportunities to allow them to succeed in the consulting industry, whether it be through networking events, panels, case competitions, or our really great professional development programs. In the past, we focused mainly on strategy and management consulting and prepping students for case prep there, but recognizing that there's so many opportunities outside of those areas like tech, healthcare consulting, etc. We're definitely focusing on expanding our reach into those fields this year as well.
Oh, wow, very cool. Yeah, I definitely echo that and agree. Okay, perfect. Next we have RCMA, and Suzanne, do you want to talk to us a little bit about RCMA?
Yeah, sounds good. So for a little bit about RCMA, I think our goal is really to connect students with marketing professionals and also promote the different skills and knowledge of marketing to the Rotman Commerce student body. So I think going into first year, there's always a huge misconception that marketing is only to make things pretty or to get good at design. But I think there are also so many other options and paths available in the world of marketing, spanning from like analytics, advertisement, or even PR. So our goal this year is really to teach students about all of the paths available to a marketer, whether that be through a non-traditional route, startups or advertisements or agencies, or even just a more traditional marketing route through corporate marketing as well.
Oh, very cool. But while I say that, I think RCMA has probably one of the most beautiful logos out of everyone, after RCSA, of course, but yeah. Okay, now going back to RCSA, Mavish, you actually want to give a little bit of breakdown over what we do as well?
Yeah, so as the best association in Rotman Commerce, no, I'm kidding. So RCSA has 3 pillars, that is student representation, student development, and student engagement. So with this, RCSA is really trying to make sure that we are on the forefront of making sure that we do voice students. And this year more than ever, we definitely saw a need for a lot of our voices to be taken to the RC office. So we have slowly transitioned ourselves to a student union to make sure that we are advocating for all of the student concerns. Specifically this year, RCSA is looking to do a lot more equity, diversity, and inclusion initiatives to make sure that all students know that they have equal and accessible opportunities to everything here at Rotman Commerce. So besides the amazing fun social events that we always hold, including Gala and our first year CEO case competition, you'll definitely see a lot more communications from us in terms of uniting all of our student groups and making sure that we advocate for your concerns. So super excited for this year in that area. So moving on, I guess we'll start with Susanna first this time, if that's okay with you. Now we want to ask you, what was your first position in this organization that you are a part of, and why did you choose to join your academic group as opposed to other options that you had in Rotman Commerce? So let us know. Go ahead.
Awesome, sounds good. So my first position at RCMA was the intern position, essentially through our junior marketer development program. Honestly, I didn't really know anything about business going into first year, so I initially joined the marketing association because they were the most approachable people to me, and I felt like that was a connection that I immediately had with RCMA.
That's so awesome. That's so wholesome and cute. Oh my goodness. Ashley, do you want to tell us more about the consulting association, why you picked it?
Yeah, definitely. I think just to echo, I'm sure this is going to be something that a lot of other people on the panel, resonate with as well. I also joined Rcca as a first-year intern, and again, something that really spoke to me was the culture. I found that I really connected with the people when I attended our first-year events and really got to know some other members of the team. It also helped that when I was in high school, I was really interested in case competitions, and someone said that, oh, if you like case competitions, why don't you give consulting a try? It might be something you're interested in. So definitely was using my first year just to, pursue some of my interests and see what was out there. And, thankfully RCCA really clicked with me, and I've been with the association for all 4 years now.
Jeez, wow. That's so awesome to see your journey. Looking now with you being president, wow, it's like very inspirational to see that. And do you want to tell us about the Finance Association?
Yeah, so I also joined RCA in my first year as an intern too. So I think for me, like when I first came into university, I didn't really have like any business background, but like I always knew that I wanted to do finance in a sense. And then I heard like a lot of great things about RCA, whether it be, very supportive community of upper year who's always there to help you, and they have a lot of resources that are available to you to help you guide through your years in university. And I also came out to the orientation event, which I had a lot of fun at, and like had a lot of chance to speak to the executive, and luckily we clicked, and I was fortunate enough to get accepted, and I've been with the club for forever since, so 4 years now. So
Wow, so lovely. I love RCFA. People are so cute. I need to learn how to flip slides after this presentation. So next we'll go with Arbab. You want to tell us about the Accounting Society?
Yeah, so just like everyone else, I joined the Accounting Society as a first-year intern, or as we like to say, our junior ambassadors. Actually, going into Rotman Commerce, I knew I didn't want to do accounting. I was like, yeah, I'll do management or finance and econ, and I even missed the club fair because I overslept. But then one day I was just sitting in WO, which is like their common area, and I met someone from RCAS, and he's like, hey, do you want to are you thinking of applying to student groups? So I was like, probably not. I'm just gonna focus on Eco 101, try to get through. He's like, oh, you should check out RCAS. You should come out to our event. And that's exactly what I did. I went out to their event. I met the people. It's a great amount of people, great amount of mentorship there. And I'm still in touch with him, even though he's graduated like 2 years ago. But I think that like one spontaneous moment like really changed my life for sure.
Wow, that's so cool, especially because Arbab is now like the face of Ramen Commerce.
Okay, no, you don't have to say
he was
that
on our view book last year, if you guys have a copy of it. So definitely very interesting to see. Fun fact, I applied to RCAS as a first year intern, never got in, but it's okay. RCSA took me in. Annabeth, you want to go next and talk about the Entrepreneurship Organization?
Yeah, for sure. Just like all the other presidents here today, I actually also joined our CEO first year as an intern as well. And I've been with the organization ever since. And I think echoing what everyone mentioned, I think it's definitely the culture that caught my attention. So because we're an entrepreneurship organization, the culture there was really mimicked what the culture would be like if you worked at a startup. So that startup culture, never being afraid of asking people questions. If you need any advice or if you just want to make any friends, our CEO, to me, that was the right place to start. And I've been able to meet a lot of like my sort of my closest friends at RCO. So that was one of the highlights of uni for sure.
Oh, that's so nice when you get friends out of a group. And yeah, we're so excited because we're also working with RCO this year. So we really appreciate all the members in your group. All right, Itamar, tell us about RCIG.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see that all of us were interns in first year, but I was as well. But going into for me, it was mainly the culture, but I also for those that know me, don't always do things the traditional way, and I like to kind of always find other ways around the traditional norms. And I felt like that's kind of what drove me towards going to RCAG as well. I didn't really want to close myself off to a certain specialist.
That's really good. Yeah, RCIG is such a fun group, so I'm glad that you got to be a part of it and now you're the president. I know that all of our presidents here have been interns, but just so you know that you do not have to be an intern in order to get to the president position. Lots of people, including I know one of the past RCAS presidents was a committee member before he got to the president role, so there are numerous opportunities for you to move up in an organization. Having said that, opposite to what I just said, Will, would you like to tell us how you joined RCSA and why you picked it opposed to the other groups?
Yeah, I was also an intern, so not really
Oh, no
adding to
way.
the yeah, unfortunate, but yeah, so I joined because actually it was at an event very similar to this, but it was obviously in that year it was in person, so there was like a lot of presidents, and I was walking around and talking to each one of them, and I think the vice president of RCSA at that time really stood out. I think she was just super welcoming. It was very unique, and I kind of got drawn in by that. I learned a bit more about it. I was passionate about student advocacy, and I did kind of student council stuff in high school, so it was kind of a natural progression for me. And also another reason that I found really important first year was I wanted to learn about the specialists, and I thought that RC SA kind of had all the specialists. So that was one reason. Although later on I found that you can kind of just learn about specialists on your own.
That's super awesome. Before we move on to the next question, we just wanted to do something at the beginning of the event, which we didn't get a chance to. But as part of our EDI initiatives, we do want to make sure we acknowledge the land that we are on. So I'm going to quickly read that statement before we continue to the next question. So we wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and most recently the Mississaugas of the Credit River. Today, this meeting is still home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have this opportunity to work on this land. And for those who don't know, we do the land acknowledgement to make sure that we are keeping in mind all the Indigenous people's rights across this country. I will now leave it up to Will for our next question.
Sorry about that. Thank you for doing the land acknowledgement, of course. And for kind of moving on to the next question, we're curious about what is, for each of your individual groups, kind of how would you describe the environment, especially maybe the culture, as well as the social scene within your organization? Because a lot of our first years, especially this year, are really looking to join a group where they can make a lot of friends, seeing how everything is virtual, and that might be hard for this year. I'm curious on all of your takes on that. And kind of going back, maybe we'll start with Itamar for this one.
Yeah, sure. So with it being online, it is obviously very difficult. RCAG, we have a lot of like returning members, and we also know a lot of our members that kind of came to our events and ended up getting into our club like through that way. But like for us, we've always kind of cherished, connections and constantly trying to find ways to, connect. Like most of the people in RCAG, and especially in my intern class, we're like best of friends. But it's definitely, I'll be honest with you, it's been very challenging online. But we've definitely been trying things and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And currently, like we have this like really cool Among Us social for those that know the game. It's a really cool game, and I highly recommend all the other clubs do that too.
Awesome. Yeah. We've been playing Among Us too, and it's fantastic. Okay, next we have our CEO. Oh, Annabeth. I think she might be having some connection issues, so maybe we'll move on to Arbab.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people know like RCAS has like a really family vibe. Like we call ourselves like the RCAS fam for we don't even know what it is, but immediately like everyone just like connects like really well. But also depends on like which like what type of scene we're at. Like if it's at an event, we'll be very professional. But if it's like behind the scenes, we're very like a close-knit family that really supports each other in our down times, and also making sure that everyone's growing in their own ways. And yeah, just like Itamar said, it's really difficult to keep your family engaged during these unprecedented times. But we also have a Among Us social coming up. But we also had a Spyfall social, so beat you right there, Itamar. I'm just kidding. And yeah, we've been doing a lot of like mini little socials, seeing whoever can join to keep like that family spirit up and keep everyone motivated for the upcoming year.
Awesome. So you got RCSA also calls ourselves a family, and with your three
Yeah, but
pillars,
like, you
so
know, that says
a lot
something else.
of
I don't know about
similarities.
that.
I realize even the letters are the same amongst the two groups.
Yeah, there's something happening
Curious,
for sure.
curious.
We don't blame you. Everyone loves the RCSA.
Okay, awesome. So I think maybe we'll come back to Annabeth because I think she just joined. So next we'll go to Anne and maybe a little bit about RCFA.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the same for RCFA. I think people tend to have this belief that like finance people are really mean and scary. I don't think that's the case, or that's not what we're going for this year. So I think RCFA, I think of it as like a community of support. Like when I was the first year, I didn't know a lot of things, and there was upper year who were there who like kind of helped me through a lot of things throughout my year, like whether it be, you know, school or recruitment or whatever. Like the first year, intern manager, when I was the first year, like I still talk to her up until this day. I still go out for lunch with her. So in a sense, like they're not only my mentors, but they're also my friends in a sense. I think that's the type of community that RCFA kind of foster. You know, they're there for you as a friend, but also there to help you through your university year. So very, very resourceful people.
Wow, that's awesome to hear. I definitely agree. I have a lot of friends in RCFA, and they're always super helpful whenever it comes to any kind of help with anything. So next we'll go to Ashley about RCCA's kind of culture and social scene.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I mean, not to echo the what everyone else has said, but RCC is also pretty tight knit. I think we really encourage everybody to, you know, stay connected, especially through these times. And even though we're mostly focused, like our club is focused on consulting resources, we also like definitely help each other with like academics. Like we know Eco 101, Eco 102, Eco 204, all of those courses, like we try to share resources like down the years. So whoever had like really good notes like 4 years ago, we still have them in the drive. So we try to support each other as much as possible. And we also, not to steal off of our Bob, but we also like to call ourselves a family, very tight knit. In terms of our social scene, so this year actually we, one of our members decided to step up and take the role of Director of Internal Affairs to kind of coordinate our meetings and how we could stay connected through COVID-19. So right now we do have also like two times every month, we have a social like online game. So we've been playing like Scribble, we've been playing Among Us, we've been playing code names. So just like whoever can attend those games, we just like play, and that's like a great way that we've been keeping connected these past couple months. So yeah, super fun times.
Well, sounds like Among Us is the common denominator. Maybe we got to do like a all RC tournament of some sort if that's possible. But yeah, okay, awesome. Next we have Susanna for RCMA.
Sounds good. And before I start up, I just want to say I will be down for the Among Us, I guess, gathering if we all decide to have one. But in terms of a little bit more about the organization, I think similar to other groups, like we also have, or personally, what I think is a really great culture. I think one thing that stands out to me personally for RCMA is that everyone's super funny and we're really not scared to be bold or ask questions, whether they be stupid or smart questions too. And this really shows through our events, marketing material, or even just through our personalities. And I think that the reason why we got to be so bold is because everyone is always super welcoming in the sense that we're always eager to help each other out, whether that be in school, jobs, or even just personal life. And I think that's the reason why our main motto for RCMA is to be bold with us and to be bold together. I think in terms of social this year, we usually have 3 big socials during the year, but this year we're going to be focusing on smaller socials, similar to other student groups like virtual games night. So we have virtual escape rooms, Among Us, obviously. We also play Secret Hitler too, which is pretty fun. So that's a little bit about RCMA's environment.
Wow, so many new games to write down for our socials going forward.
I know. I hope we're listing them down.
Yeah. I got Skyfall and Secret Hitler. I'll make sure to check those out. But yeah, okay. Last but not least, back to Annabeth, who I think has reconnected.
Oh, hi. Sorry, I just got back online. But yeah, absolutely love Secret Hitler. You'd be surprised of how many like good actors people are when it comes to playing Secret Hitler, but absolutely an amazing like team bonding game. I think just to echo what everyone said, on top of all the friendly lists that our CEO has, something we've really been implementing, especially during this COVID-19 situation, is team transparency. So we realize that we want to be able to make decisions as a whole team instead of making decisions as a director or president or vice president. So whenever we have any sort of decisions, events, or any actions, contingency plans to implement, we always consult the entire team, have them raise their opinions, what they think about the situation, have their inputs, and then we decide together what the result would be as a team. So I think this is the culture that we really tried to implement in the past couple of years, and I think this is something that we're going to continue having in our organization as well.
Oh, well, that's great to hear. It's very different from Rcsa, where it's a complete dictatorship by Mavish. So really great to hear that other organizations is very different. So yeah, back to Mavish. I think for our next question is the last one that's going to be answered by everyone, and then we'll kind of go into a kind of free for all, kind of whoever wants to answer answers.
Yes, but before that, we should also talk about Rcsa's culture and organization. So Rcsa, like all the millions of execs here, is obviously a family, but the thing is Rcsa is the biggest group in Rotman Commerce, so we have over 40 members. So creating that culture of making sure that we all support each other is very, very important. So we have like a huge group chat with everybody in it, where, unlike what Will said, everyone makes fun of me for literally everything that we do, including all our socials. Everyone thinks that I'm the person who's sneaking around to do everything. But again, with Rcsa, we want to make sure that we're always transparent with everything that we do, just like Annabeth just said. And with that, we always make sure that we're always checking in with our committee. So we do like director feedback surveys, we do president and vice president feedback surveys, and making sure that we semester check-ins, which is one-on-one with our committee members. So our thing is always making sure that the mental health and well-being of our committee members comes first, and then obviously fun, and then making sure that we're always advocating for students as well. So it's a very cute, wholesome environment. And then the last question that we have for all our, not the last question, but the question that applies to everybody until we get into more specific questions, is how has being part of your organization helped you as an individual or with skill development? And with this, I'll just switch it around and we'll start with Arbab and then go Annabeth, Itamar, and Ashley and Susanna. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing RCAS has probably done for me is help my time management skills. I think coming into first year university, you have like no idea what's going on, and you're commuting on top of that. You're working like part-time on top of that. I think I met somebody, like great people in RCAS who told me like strategies you can use to like balance your course load with like work and with the student groups. So that really helped a lot. And then I think after my first year, I started taking on like leadership roles within RCAS. So it really helped me establish like what type of leader I am, right? And when you need to be a little bit strict within your meetings, when you need to make sure your team's motivated. So time management and leadership skills are definitely the two main things that I think RCAS really helped me build.
Wow, that's really, really good. And even for myself, like when I was doing lots of applications to different things, RCAS had some of the best mentors that helped me throughout the processes. So yeah, really great job with your association. We'll go on to Annabeth and talk about our CEO and what she's gotten out of it.
Echoing what Arbab said, I think it's definitely also on top of time management, but also leadership skills that I was able to develop at RCEO. I think with any RC groups, once you are part of their ecosystem, you really become a leader. So for example, when you plan any events, it's not just doing what needs to be done, it's to strategically think, okay, if this is my vision for this event, what must be done and who is the best person for that role? So sort of like communicating with your team what the visions are, what needs to be done, and then finding the right person to do it. I think within the team, this is something that, you know, the skills that you get to really develop, it's not just doing, but it's to think about what must be done, and then think about how you can communicate those messages to the entire team, be it from a manager position, be it from a president or a director position. I think this leadership style is something that anyone can get out of from any organization, and this is something that I've been able to get from our CEO.
That's so amazing. Wow, it sounds like you really developed everything that you need as a student there from RCEO. So that's so awesome to see. Itamar, let's see what you got at RCIG.
I definitely would echo everything that was just said. It's very similar. For me personally, I think I got myself to go a bit more out of the box in terms of socially. I think coming in, I was very shy, and I used to kind of like to keep to myself, and I've kind of changed a lot. Because then I think it's, especially like public speaking, like had first year Edomar been here right now, he would be shaking right now. So being kind of put in this position where I'm constantly trying to present and kind of work and present things to people. We do a lot of like internal projects that we work with, like it's a lot of social internal things that you do is when you're in the club, and we always try to find new ways, kind of opportunity. And I think it also helped my communication skills a lot too.
Definitely. You are not a shy person anymore. I can vouch for that. So you're good in that department. We'll go with Anne now.
I think I would echo a lot of what Itamar say, just because back when I was the first year, I was really shy and like quiet person in general too. And like, you know, just coming into Rotman where like everybody's kind of intense in a sense. There's like a lot of, you know, surrounding networking and everything. Like I was really terrified, but I think RCA kind of gave me that platform support, you know, like they were the first people who accepted me as a first year intern. Like in a sense, they kind of trusted me and put faith in me and invest their time in me in a sense. So like over the years, I've been mentored like by the upper years and the grad, like basically helping me of learning how to present myself, learning how to act in front of people, how to go to networking events and things like that. And I think like now that I'm a president, I think this year for me personally too, my goal this year is to basically invest in every single member of our club, making sure that, you know, they have that personal growth from just being in our club. So
that's so good to see. And I think especially with the Finance Association, I know there's lots of stigma, like you said, around it. So it's really good and refreshing to see a president who is, you know, breaking those barriers down. So that's awesome, Annabeth. And sorry, Ashley, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So for me, honestly, I was a pretty clueless first year. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And as you can tell, I was pretty indecisive, even moving throughout these 3 years for like specializations and other things. But honestly, I can attribute a lot of my personal development in terms of like academics and careers to the mentorship and support of other members within RCCA, like even people who were in my year, but also mentors who are older. When I was in first year, I literally didn't know what LinkedIn was, never wrote a resume ever. And my mentors basically helped me to build those core business skills from the ground up. And later when I was starting to recruit for consulting, they taught me like the core skills needed to do cases and things like that. I think one thing that I also got out of RCCA was just exposure to different opportunities, which also helped me grow a lot. And those opportunities really helped me to develop my own interests and understand where I want to take my own career within consulting and which areas I want to pursue. So I think that was something that was really helpful in terms of providing me with direction and, you know, giving me the stepping stones, the tools to like move forward with my own career. So yeah, that's definitely, I think the biggest thing that I got from RCCA.
I totally agree. I was part of the RCCA Perspectives Case Comp, and the amount of feedback RCCA upper year students gave us was so amazing. Definitely a very welcoming and encouraging development association. Susanna.
All right, sounds good. So yeah, just echoing off of what the other student leaders said, I think that being a part of RCMA really helped me learn a bunch of skills like teamwork, leadership, and communication. But if there was one skill that RCMA taught me, I think it would be able to have a customer-centric way of thinking. And I think this is a really important skill to have regardless of where you end up because, you know, money goes where the people go. So if you're able to think like the people or like your clients, that's definitely an asset that I think every firm looks for. So you're going to be faced with client situations through, you know, consulting, iBanking, or even accounting as you go up the ladder. So being customer focused really helps you foster that great relationship and really build up your rapport, especially with your bosses during your later internships later on. So yeah, that's definitely a skill I wouldn't have picked up on if it weren't for RCMA.
That's so awesome. Wow, what a polished answer. I love all the skills that you gained from RCMA. That's so awesome to see. We'll ask Will now, for RCSA, our Student Association, what are some skills that you've developed or how has the organization helped you?
I think for me, it's kind of, I would say it kind of echoes what a lot of people have said, but really leadership because for me specifically, I think it was a very, RCSA was really the first place that I received a lot of opportunity to take on leadership roles. For example, it was my first, I was in second year, it was my first time leading a team. And in my third year, it was my first time in a executive level role. So it was very interesting to go through that. And I think for me, the biggest takeaway was probably the kind of natural progression of leadership and the ability to kind of take on leadership roles and learn about that.
Definitely. I feel you on the same wavelength there. Definitely for leadership. I will now we will now have like a separate set of questions now to like make sure that we're sort of more specific. So we'll have like maybe 3 people answer each question. Feel free to volunteer and jump at the questions so that we make sure that everybody gets a chance to answer. And I'll let our Vice President Will take it away.
Okay, awesome. So for our question, kind of really specific to your roles, what advice would you give to someone coming from a president, vice president role? What advice would you give to someone who is aspiring to maybe someday enter a similar role, or just a very senior executive role within a student organization? Kind of what advice would you give to them as maybe a first year?
Wow, so much eagerness. Any executive can answer. Go ahead.
I think I can get us started on this question, and anyone can jump in. I think it's definitely to have a vision for what the club stands for. So oftentimes, a lot of the executives are sort of unclear about what the goal of the organization is. And as a leader, if you want to be able to navigate an entire team, sort of be the mentoring guidance, then I think it's definitely to have that vision. So be clear in terms of what the organization seeks to accomplish, why they accomplish them, and what's the purpose behind the entire organization. I think being able to have a clear vision in your mind, but more importantly, communicating that with the entire team, I think that's what makes someone stands out as a leadership executive role at any organization.
Oh, well, I agree with that completely. And I think kind of one great thing about internship programs is that you get a lot of that opportunity to maybe see things from a more holistic point of view, rather than being, for example, involved in one specific committee. As an intern, you kind of get experience across multiple kind of areas of the club, which I think is really great. So for those of you looking to apply, definitely do. And so anyone else want to add on to that, perhaps? And Mavish, you can feel free to jump in as well.
Yes, I would jump in, but I want to give somebody else a chance. Go ahead, Edmar.
Yeah, I can go ahead. I think one big thing, kind of taking a step back, would be just making yourself, like, finding ways to stand out. You don't necessarily have to be just in the club immediately to stand out. Even just going to an event for the club, or just finding ways to get involved in any capacity, is a good starting point to make yourself stand out. So, you know, even if, let's say, like, you aren't going into second year and you didn't get an internship in first year, there's always ways of kind of allowing yourself to sprinkle in some more kind of, you know, emphasis as to how good you would be in the club. And, you know, when you come in and if you go into the club again, you kind of keep finding ways of standing out and making the club a better place. And I think that's the most important part.
Definitely. For me, advice that I would give is something, I know it's very prevalent in Rotman Commerce to obviously do things that are helping your resume, helping your like benefits for next applications or jobs that you might have to do. But whenever you go for senior executive roles, remember that you're not doing it for the title, you're doing it for the actual interest in the organizations that you're going for. So if it's not something that, you know, aligns with their values, it's not something worth going for just because it gives you the title of something. So saying RCSA president is great, but if you're not able to, you know, execute the values and stand by what exactly your organization is doing, then it's really not worth it. So definitely see what you want to do, and then everything else will follow through. Having said that, we'll move on to our next question. So what made you stand out amongst your other candidates or peers? So any specific involvements that you had, or maybe something that you said in an interview, or maybe how you connected with other executives. What made you, I guess, stand out to get first your internship role or be part of the organization in general?
I think maybe I'll start things off. I think for me, what really made me in first year stand out, I think, was my effort to get to know the people in the organization. I think it almost happened by chance. It was just, I happened to be at an event where there was just so many panelists, and there was less participants than panelists, I think. So there was an opportunity for me to speak with in that time it was the vice president of Rcsa, and I spoke to her for, I think, just one-on-one for more than 20 minutes. And I think that really made me stand out, because she remembered me. She knew that I was interested in the organization. And I think for me, that's what made me stand out in the role for getting an internship. Yeah.
Definitely. Wow, that's great. Okay, I guess I'll pick on someone. Susanna, you want to tell us what made you stand out?
Yeah, definitely. I think echoing off of what Will said, it was definitely my eagerness to learn a little bit more about the organization, so especially RCMA. I think I had most of my one-on-one chats with a few directors, specifically to the directors who are hiring for interns, and really made myself known to them because I knew that my resume and cover letters were definitely not the strongest suit, so I really had to stand out in another way. So I think that's the way that I tackled it too.
That's good. Yeah, definitely getting to know the executives is like a great thing that you can do before you hand an application. Anyone else that had a different sort of approach in terms of their applications and what made them stand out to join the organization? Or did everybody connect with all the executives?
Yeah, I think I can speak to that. Hopefully my Wi-Fi is not, I can see myself lagging again, but just let me know if I die or something.
No, you're not like us, so you're good.
Okay, cool. So I think something that, aside from getting to know other executives or other people on the team, I think something that was really important for me was communicating why exactly I wanted to be on the consulting association compared to like any other association. So like connecting my personal interest in like case
So, so now kind of a little bit more specific for your role, kind of what in this year as president so far, what has been the biggest challenge specifically for you and your organization?
I can take this actually. So okay, one thing we've been when we were planning our events, we were really confused on how do you make like an effective online event. Like I'm sure we've all been to one, but like sometimes like they do like networking rotations, but there's only 2 minutes. They're only 2 minutes long, and they're not as effective. So figuring out an event that's like effective, where you're able to build a connection, you get to learn about the company and such, has definitely been like one of the most difficult parts. But I think we're slowly by doing events, we're starting to figure out what the good and bads are. And the second is like, yeah, we talked about this before, but like keeping your the Rcas fam together, just because we can't see each other in person, we can't do the in-person big socials. So and we've been talking that through like mini socials, which we talked about before. But yeah, those are the two biggest things we face, struggles we faced as a president.
Yeah. Rcsa has some of the most creative events that I've been to, like the
Yeah.
escape rooms with like industry professionals and stuff. So I don't doubt that you guys are gonna think of creative solutions for all your online events.
Oh, I hope so too.
You will definitely. Definitely anyone else who wants to take that challenges as president.
I think I can go next. I think for RCVA at least, I think like a lot of our events were focused mostly around networking and coming out and speaking to reps and things like that. And I think like even before when everything was in person, I think a lot of students face like sorry, I think my video just went off for some reason. Okay, sorry about that. I think a lot of before, like a lot of students face a lot of like fear, like coming out to networking events when it was already in person, and this year with it being online, I think it's even more intimidating. So like as an organization, we're trying to figure out how to organize networking event most effectively so that we can help bridge that gap. And I think just keeping student engaged and like asking questions, not being scared, because a lot of time when like you guys record these events and things like that, I think that also in a sense prevents a lot of people from asking questions because they don't want to be recorded. So we're like looking for solutions in order to help like counter all of that. But I think the biggest challenge of all is just keeping our team together. Again, it's very difficult. A lot of our members live in different time zones. A lot of time like they can't make it to the meeting, and we try to do like 8 a.m. meetings sometimes to accommodate people. So it's definitely going to be a challenging year, but we'll work towards figuring that out for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think the recording is definitely like an iffy thing because you want discussions to be very open, but you also want to make sure people who have time zone conflicts can also see the event. So I guess we're all still figuring out the best way to execute all of that. Any last person who wants to talk about challenges they've had as president, maybe before COVID-19, after COVID-19? Not really after, since we're still in this pandemic.
Yeah, I can speak briefly to something not really related to COVID. I don't know if the other student leaders here can kind of sympathize, but I think one of the challenges of being president, like moving from like a director position, is that your problems are no longer about like, oh, events or corporate relations or like getting reps. It's more about like people management, and trying to make sure that everybody on your team is happy and is working together well. So I think that that's definitely like people management was one of the challenges that I faced, especially like coming into the role early on. And I think something that Annabeth mentioned earlier, which I think is really cool, is just ensuring that there's transparency in terms of like all the different things that you're doing, not just as like president, vice president, but like between portfolios as well. Ensuring that there's that transparency is really important. Hopefully I did not wag through all of that as well, but yeah, I think that's something that stood out to me.
Yeah, no, you're good for the lagging, and I definitely echo a lot of that as well. So, and just to, yeah, like Nicole just mentioned, feel free to leave whatever questions in the chat, and we will take them up in the Q&A portion. And if we, yeah, I think once we reach a certain amount of questions, we'll kind of transition over to Q&A. So please drop whatever questions you want, and if you want them answered live, you can put live. But if not, we'll just kind of read them out loud as well. So yeah, feel free to drop whatever questions. So now on to a little bit of advice for first-year students. I think to start off from you guys, what advice would you give to students just generally for joining student groups, but also for your group specifically? Is there anything they can do to stand out for your group in terms of both getting an interview as well as kind of succeeding in the interview as well?
I can kick us off for that question. So I think my number one advice is just don't be afraid to reach out if you have any questions. No question is a stupid question. So it's totally fine if you're like in your first year or you've never even done business before and you just need to reach out to someone for more questions to learn more about the organization. And I'm sure that all of the panelists here are more than happy to take up any of those questions. Another tip that I would have, which is more RCMA focused, would definitely be to show your interest somewhat in marketing or show your creativity. That's something that we appreciate a lot, especially when we're developing new marketing material or even coming up with new event ideas. So if you can bring those passions to the table, that's definitely going to add some, I guess, bonus points for you. And then just as like a final tip from me, when you're doing your cover letters, and this is for all open to like all applications, but when you're applying to a specific student group, just make sure that it is the right student group that you've applied to. I've read many, I guess, applications that have said, oh, dear Rcca president or dear RCFA and stuff like that when you're applying to RCMA. So just make sure that you have those sorted out for your cover letters. And those are going to be my 3 tips.
Yeah, I definitely echo the last one. Make sure to do that because I have done that before and it's not a good time, I guarantee you. So really, really be careful with that. Yeah, anyone else happy to jump in as well? Maybe I'll go. I think for my recommendation is again to echo, really go and meet as many people as you can. And I think in this time, even just emailing them and asking questions about maybe the application process or specifically about the organization shows kind of a little bit extra and commitment to your interest in joining that group. And for first years, I would say one advice would be to apply to too many. I think usually I would caution applying to more than 5 organizations because I think at that point you really are kind of spreading the net and spreading a bit too thin, and you risk kind of appearing as you don't appear to be very passionate about one specific group. And for Rcsa specifically, I think for us, a passion for maybe advocacy, whether it be shown in your past experience or kind of through researching our organization, what we've done in terms of advocacy would really make you stand out because I think that's an area that we definitely focus a lot on.
Definitely. I know Itamar, you want to say something? Go ahead.
For us personally, and I feel like all the clubs would agree with this, it's a lot about just showing kind of who you are and just showing your personality. I think that's kind of the biggest way to make yourself stand out and look, people want to know the real you. And so definitely don't kind of try to portray some random image of someone that you think people want you to be. People just want you to be yourself. And you should definitely just go into your interview be positive, be happy, and just showcase, you know, who you are. And I think that a lot of the interviewers will be very impressed by that. I think it's something that, you know, especially being in business school, you'll see a lot of, you know, people who put on like this face to kind of shield away from, you know, the things, other things. But I think people really like authenticity and people being genuine.
200%. I totally agree. Does anyone else have any inputs that they want to give?
I kind of want to emphasize that the application is due at 9 a.m., not midnight. You'd be surprised how many people miss this deadline every single year. So 9 a.m., guys, like, do not miss it.
Yes, 100%. I think I made the same mistake because I'm like, it has to be 11:59, but no, it's 9 a.m. Wednesday, September 30th. So make sure you get it in. Okay, I guess we'll move on to the next question. I know there's lots of tips that everybody wants to give, so maybe if there's time at the end, we can definitely go into that. So another question now is more specific, and I really hope Ashley participates in this question. It is, a lot of first years are curious, obviously, about choosing specialists. So what specialist are you doing, and how did you decide? So we'll start off with Ashley with all the specialists, and then go more specific.
Yeah, sure. I can kick it off. So I think just to debunk any mysteries about specializations, first of all, is that you definitely have flexibility to go through the specializations like basically until third year, which is exactly what I did. So right now I'm in finance and economics, but I started out in management. And then the reason why I decided to move through all the specializations is because I felt that I didn't really connect well with the subject that I was studying. So for management, I just personally felt that it was too broad. I wanted something more technical. So when I moved into accounting, I know like I would have seen like Inamar, Arbab, and Navish in a lot of my classes last year. But for me, I didn't think that accounting was kind of the area that I wanted to kind of, pursue a career in. I wanted to go into consulting. Well, obviously, I was in the consulting association. But the good thing about consulting is that you can go into it with any kind of academic background. So I wasn't really afraid of which one I ended up choosing. So because I found that accounting wasn't a fit for me, then I went to finance and economics because I really enjoyed econ and learning more about capital markets and in the finance specialization. So I guess like my biggest tip is just like don't be afraid to kind of dip your toes into the specializations because you definitely have flexibility and the curriculum allows you to do that. So I switched in third year, second semester, which is like really cutting it close. So yeah, that's like, yeah.
That's so great though. I love that you were able to explore yourself and go through these specialists, and definitely like that you like economics, which is kind of weird to me, but good for you for liking that course and area of study. How about Arbab? Because I know you said you didn't want to go into accounting, but then you decided our accounting is your life. So what
okay.
made you
Me, accounting is not my life, but yeah, a lot of people tend to make their decision about accounting based on RSM 219, which is probably like the worst thing to do because it's completely different from like the stuff we learn now. It's nowhere near close to like what we learned in 219. But I spoke with a lot of professors. I spoke with a lot of people at, like networking events. I met people from like the consulting area, finance area, and then accounting. I really liked what you can do with your CPA designation. And to get your CPA, you kind of have to specialize in accounting because you need those required courses. Just because there's a lot of flexibility allowed with your when you have a CPA. For example, I know people who started off in accounting, but now they're like investment banker at Scotiabank. I was like, wow, like you really turned your life around. So just having that flexibility really like something that stood out to me, and that's primarily why I chose to specialize in accounting. And I personally say do not base your decision on your courses. Like, yeah, you should have a genuine interest in the course, but it doesn't mean that should be the only factor, right? Like, look at other things as well, right? That's my only tip on how to pick your
I
specialty.
totally agree. Yeah, I don't think the stuff that we do in our courses is what you end up doing in real life for your jobs and anything related to your specialist. So yeah, definitely figure out what you want to do based on mostly outside factors in terms of jobs and areas of interest. Does anyone else have any advice or tell us how you picked your specialist and how it came?
I think maybe one really brief general advice is to not follow the crowd, because I think in first year, a lot of people just did that. People kind of went with, I know a lot of my friends went for finance and economics because it's kind of the one that people think you have the most flexibility, because you'll still be able to switch into the other ones, and obviously that's good too. But I think really go with whatever you feel like you want to do. Don't kind of follow the crowd. It's really hard to not follow the crowd, but kind of really try your best too. I think that's my biggest advice.
Definitely. Susanna, did you want to say something? I saw you unmute yourself there for a bit.
Yeah, sure. I think that I also want to speak up a bit because I'm a part of RCMA, but I'm doing my specialist in finance and econ. So I think a way that I came about that decision was I learned a lot about how marketing really emphasizes analytics now. So really having those hard skills like through Excel or even just modeling is something that's really important, even in the world of marketing. So I kind of wanted to acquire my soft skills through extracurriculars, and I went through, the hard skills and the technicals through finance and econ.
That's actually really, really true. And I know even in the marketing world, so much of it is based on finance and economics. So it's really good to see how you are like interconnecting those worlds. And yeah, marketing is so cool in general. So really awesome.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I guess we'll move on to the next question. Yeah, I guess, Will, you want to take it away?
Yep, for sure. I think for the sake of time, we'll keep these maybe a bit briefer. But so one question about how do you manage your time between classes, extracurriculars, professional, as well as your personal life, kind of between all of those, especially at a very senior executive level, kind of how would you kind of go about, how do you go about organizing it?
And I saw you make like a reaction when you heard balancing your time.
I guess I can speak to this question because I personally definitely overcommitted myself when I was in my second year. So like when I was in my second year, I was involved with like really traditional finance clubs. I was part of Rcsa and I was also a part of TSIC. And I also worked as a lab assistant in the finance lab and had a part-time job that year too. And just juggling that on top of my 5 courses, which is like really, really overwhelming. So I think like looking back, like I think I was able to prioritize a lot of my tasks. And I think generally, like a lot of the people at your club are understanding. Like if I tell my RCA president that I have a midterm, like they'll understand and like allocate somebody else to help them on that work. And I think just be very transparent, like what you have on your plate. Like when somebody asks if you can help with something, just say, hey, like I have this and that. Like I don't know if I can finish on, the time that you want, but maybe like I can help like with other things or whatever. Just making sure you're, keeping track of everything that you're doing and prioritizing the tasks and just communicating with your manager, whoever you're working with is important. But like looking back, like I don't think it's worth it to like commit to so many extracurricular because your academic is important too. So maybe kind of narrow down what you want to do and just focus on those would be helpful.
Definitely. I totally agree with you. Scheduling is key. I think we'll get Annabeth for this question now, and we'll go on to the next ones after if you want to give us some advice there.
For sure. Just to echo what Anne mentioned, I think prioritization is absolutely critical. So it's not just prioritization based on when the deadlines are, but it's also prioritization based on, okay, how much impact, so how severe is the situation if you don't solve and sort of complete that task first. So for example, are other managers, directors waiting for you to complete this? And if you don't complete this, they're going to have to be, delaying their entire process. Or maybe if you have an exam and this is a super important exam, so it's obviously a very difficult situation to put yourself in if you don't complete those tasks in studying, handing assignments. So I think it's prioritization based on not just a deadline, but also sort of like impact that would be created if you didn't complete that task. So yeah, those are sort of my 2 cents. Mm-hmm.
I totally agree. Definitely looking at the weights of what each thing is worth also in your course syllabus definitely is going to help you. We'll move on to the next question. Definitely connect with these executives later if you want more advice for specific questions and you didn't get their input for it. So we're going to go with, what is a very fun or interesting first or second year elective course that you recommend? Because elective courses are really hard to find. So does anyone have any particular interests?
I think one recommendation from me, I took a lot of bird courses throughout my university, so definitely have a lot of advice to give there. And I think one that was super interesting is this course called PCL 102, and it's the art of drug discovery. And it was really easy. It was super easy, but it was so interesting. I think it really got me interested in the healthcare space, and it gave me a lot of information on how exactly drugs are developed. So if you're interested in not narcotics, but like actual pharmaceutical drugs. So if you're interested in learning about that, like the different phases of trials and kind of areas like that, it's super interesting. So yeah, definitely that one.
Yeah. I took elective courses too. Like I took French, but I ended up dropping it because the French department is so difficult at U of T. But I took a meditation course this past summer, thinking that it was going to be like you do meditation online, but it was not. You write essays on how meditation affects your brain and like, you know, body function. So I would not know. Great electives to take there. But does anyone else have any inputs for elective courses to take in?
I actually have another sort of a bird course, but I found it to be very interesting. It's called GGR 124. So I think it focuses a lot on human geography and urbanization. I think this course actually allowed me or sort of inspired me to take a minor in human geo. So that's currently what I'm doing right now. So not only is the course easy, it also allows you to learn a lot more about, you know, like urbanization, what's going on in our world, sort of inequalities and what the government is doing to solve them. So I think this is a very interesting course to tackle on the social sciences side. So a little bit insights into, you know, like non-commerce courses.
Definitely. Yeah, I heard the GGR courses are pretty popular because astronomy used to be that course, but now it's like geography. You should definitely try it as an elective. Okay, I guess we're going to move on, but just I guess in general, nutrition, geography, and astronomy courses are like the most popular electives here at U of T. So if you want to look into it, definitely do so. We'll go into our last question, and we'll get, if you haven't spoken, like feel free to speak for this question. What piece of advice would you give to first years transitioning from high school? Because I know we definitely wish we knew a lot of things back then. Anyone?
I think one piece of advice from me is to not underestimate the amount of work needed for classes, because I think I think that's something that you get a little bit shocked by, because in my opinion, a lot of the course load comes from the fact that you have to do work on your own and it's not very structured. There's no homework anymore, right? So for example, you don't even have to attend tutorials if you don't want to. And I think it's really important for a lot of courses, for example, for first years, especially RSM 219, for that course, I highly recommend attending tutorials. If you're not, you have to attend tutorials for that course. So kind of around stuff like that, just it's really a shift from high school, because obviously high school you have to attend every single course, whereas in university there's optional tutorials, which in a lot of cases should not be optional.
Definitely, I totally agree with you. Time managing yourself is like a whole other issue that you run into in university, so definitely. Inmar, you want to give us some input? I haven't heard from you in a while. How you transition from high school to university? What advice do you have for us?
I think the big difference between university and high school is your ability to kind of go and really try things. And I think that's one thing that kind of got me kind of to constantly be inspired. When I came into first year, I always tell people this, but I created a list of everything I wanted to do and achieve. And I've been trying to follow it ever since. So like trying new things. And I think, yeah, this doesn't directly answer the transition question, but I think for me personally, the way that kind of kept me going and very much motivated and constantly doing new things is kind of following this list and kind of also adding things on the way to this list. And there's a bunch of cool things on there that I hope I can get done before I graduate.
Well, we're excited to see it, so that'll be really cool to see. But yeah, I totally agree with you. You do lose sight of some of your like fun interests when you enter a program like Rotman Commerce. So definitely keeping that intact from high school would be really, really good. Okay, I think that's all our questions for today. We do have some fun questions aligned, but we want to make sure we get to the chat of all the things that our lovely participants have come up with. So I haven't looked at the chat yet, so I'm just going to, Will, unless you're aware of the order of the questions that we want to go into, that would be great.
Yep, I saw the first question was kind of for our panelists about a time when you rebound, or how did you rebound from a time when you failed? Interesting. I'm doing some interview prep right now, and this sounds oddly familiar for me, huh? Giving me flashbacks. But yeah, for everyone, kind of how did you rebound from maybe failure?
I actually
Yeah, go ahead. I was gonna say, Arbab, go ahead.
so I did an interview with a fairly large firm in my first year, And you know, I was pretty confident that I would get it, but I didn't end up getting it, and that hit hard because I was so invested into it. I was really like looking forward to it. But the way I rebounded was I immediately went to the interviewers and asked for like feedback, and then I think we sat for like 2 hours, and she explained to me like where I need to improve, what areas I need to like fix up in, and that was like the best thing I could have done, right? Because from there, like I got my motivation back. I started going out to their events again, and then I got the offer the next time. So it worked out there.
Well, yeah. I definitely echo that. I think asking for feedback after interviews specifically is something really great. And we're just whatever you're doing, always if there's feedback available, I think it's really good to ask for it. Okay. Anyone else have anything to add?
And I saw another question from Julia. She said, how did your university life change as you transitioned from a first-year student into upper-year student? Anyone?
Ashley, do you want to
Ashley.
I just remember that the raise hand function exists, so I don't know why I wasn't using that before to answer
No
questions.
worries.
But yeah, I think that's a great question in terms of how, for me personally, how my university life changed going from first year to upper years. I think that when I was in first year, most of my worries surrounded more like academic, like were more centered around academics. And then as I transitioned into upper years, it turned into more of like a career, like my issues were more centered around like career advancement and things like that. So I think that in terms of how I manage that kind of transition, really reaching out to your network and, you know, staying connected with any mentors or even like the peers around you, I think that was like the most important thing, because like even for academics, it's like, oh, if you have a study group, that makes things a lot easier. And then when you're, you know, prepping for interviews, having like friends that can case you or interview you, that's always really helpful, and having mentors that can guide you. So I think that in terms of managing that transition, really staying connected with your network and making sure you're reaching out to a support system is really important.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think for myself, when I first started like Rotman Commerce or my university life in general, I was doing a lot of what Will said, like, you know, we shouldn't do is following the crowd and seeing like what everybody else is doing, comparing yourself to so many people. And I think as you become an upper year student, you start to realize like what you really want to do and like where this is taking you apart from everybody else. So I, you know, slowly got a grasp of things that I want to do and like things that I don't need to follow the crowd for. So definitely a lot more refreshing when you get to see like, you know, what you want to do in your life and how you want to make an impact. Anybody else?
I want to add a little bit more to that. I think in first year, for me at least, because I was a little clueless when I first came to Rotman, so I was relying on upper year a lot, and these people were basically like helping me and guiding me through like a recruitment process, landing my first job, landing my big internship, whatever. But then I think as you get older, you know, these people graduate, and then you become the pillar of support like in the school, because now you're the oldest person, right? So then I think like just transitioning from, you know, a mentee into a mentor is important, and like making sure you're always there to support your lower year is important. So
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. And just to add a little bit more on the maybe the courses side, I think for me, the transition from lower year to upper year, I think it was really great because as you get into upper year, you have a lot more flexibility in the kind of courses you want to take. For example, in first year, a lot of your courses are locked in, right? So for example, you have to take all of the required courses versus upper year, there's still required courses, but there's definitely a lot more flexibility. And you can really, I feel like most people end up doing better in third and fourth year just because of the fact that you can choose courses that you're good at. For example, some people are really analytical, they do those courses. Some people are really good at writing, they can kind of specialize into those, or just maybe or even go opposite and try to develop those skills. So I think in terms of courses, that's one difference.
Definitely. I totally agree that you get a lot more autonomy of things that you want to do instead. So speaking on the courses side, Abdu has a question for us, and he's asking, what is harder, Eco 101 or Eco 204? I cannot answer because I had a very different Eco 204 experience, so I will let somebody who did the courses to answer that question. Anyone?
I can take the question. That's a great question. First of all, I would say that personally for me, it was Eco 101 that was the hardest because it really sets the foundation on how you understand economics. I think that as you go up in like higher level eco courses, you're able to actually apply like the knowledge you learned in Eco 101, 102 to 204, or even 204 to all the 300 level or 400 level eco courses. So personally for me, it was 101, but as long as you put the effort in, it really sets the foundation for the rest of your eco course career, I guess.
Yeah, approaching the question and learning how to answer econ questions is definitely established in Eco 101. So I totally agree with you on that. Anyone else have any inputs? No, I guess they're both just as difficult. Oh, there's people raising their hand, but I can't see them. Ashley, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say this is going to be really quick, but I think one important thing, this is not really answering the question of what is harder, but I think the most important thing is to not go into those courses like afraid, I guess, because I feel like there's a really negative undertone. Like I've heard from a lot of first years, like they're very scared of Eco 101 and Eco 102, and then Eco 204 moving onwards. I think it's just really important for you to go in with like a positive outlook and be like, oh, I just want to learn about economics. So these are your beginner courses. Just like take the time. I know a lot of people do end up struggling with them, but again, just take the time to, go to tutorials, ask your prof questions, even if it's like scary, ask your friends, do all the problem sets, things like that. I think because there's a bit of a negative undertone surrounding those courses, it might feel just like a bit scary for you, and that might make it harder in and of itself. But yeah, I think that there are definitely resources and like mentors, like peer mentors as well. Like we have career peers, etc., for all these courses. So make sure that you're taking advantage of those resources if you are struggling.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just making sure that you're able to bounce back, even if you end up not doing that great, is definitely something that you take away from your first year. So don't be afraid to make mistakes or to not do so well, because it's okay. We all bounce back. We all end up in the same boat by the end of the 4 years or 5, whatever you choose to do. I think, do we have any more questions in the chat? Am I not looking at
We
it?
have one other question. I think maybe we'll do 1 or 2 more for the sake of time. So this question is about the difference between the finance and econ specialist versus the management specialist with a finance stream, so a focus in finance. And maybe I'll start off because I know a little bit about this. I was kind of choosing between the two at one point. And from my understanding, generally in terms of finance courses, I would say the requirements are pretty similar across the two. The main difference is that for the management and finance stream, for most people, the main difference is that you don't have to take 208/209 for eco. And then there's also some requirement differences when you get to the 300 and 400 level courses. But if you're just thinking from a pure finance perspective, I would say there's not too much difference. But if you are interested in pursuing maybe economics, then definitely go for the finance and econ stream. And in terms of professional opportunities, I think it's pretty similar. One story would be our president from last year for Rcsa. He was actually working in finance, and he was kind of management with a finance focus, and he was doing really well. And it did not hinder his recruitment opportunities in any way.
That's good to know. Does anyone else have any experience with the finance specialist versus the management finance?
Like I personally don't. Like I know a lot of friends who are in finance who are like, in investment banking who have really great jobs. Like a lot of them have management specialists with finance stream. I think the thing about Rotman is just that the eco courses are really difficult for some people. So, like if you for some reason don't think that you will end up doing well in your econ classes and don't have an interest in it, I would highly recommend switching to management with specialization in finance, just because that way you avoid that GPA drop through your eco classes, and then that will even better position you for the recruitment process, because that's what I've seen a lot of my friends do, and like it turned out well for them. So
yeah, I definitely see like the management stream taking off in those focus areas too. So definitely do not shy away from exploring those options as well. We have one more question. Has your session ever sorry, yeah? So it's, has your association ever come up in interviews? Do you mean like in job interviews, or like, I'm not entirely sure. Oh, right. Okay. So have we ever brought it up? Or has the interviewer ever brought it up in interviews? Is that
I think he's talking about like professional experience, professional interviews. Have they kind of mentioned your or asked you questions about your association? Was it a factor and so on?
All right, does anyone have any input there?
I can go on this one. I actually got interviewed by a Rcsa alumni. And then another time at a networking event, I was just talking to a partner once, and she was in Rcsa in like 1991. So you definitely see like people are around from the group like all the time at different firms. And I think like for 20 minutes of my interview, we just talked about Rcsa because he was asking me like what has changed about the group, what's new things you're doing. So you definitely see a lot of like your alumni who are part of these groups in interviews for sure.
I totally know what you're talking about. So I agree. There's a lot of conversations there for lots of associations. Sorry, would I just interrupt? Who would like to go?
Oh, sorry. I just also wanted to chime in a little bit. I think oftentimes when interviewers ask me any questions about sort of leadership or even initiative, I think our CEO would be the key answer that I would bring up. So I think initiative at interviews, usually they want to see that you're not just part of the organization, you're actually taking action to make that organization better. So giving them stories on like how you've grown at Rcsa or any organization that you're in, what actions have you taken? So what problems do you realize your organization has? And what have you done to make that problem, be resolved? How did you improve the situation? I think this is something that a lot of interviewers asked, and I was able to use Rcsa as a key experience that way. And I'm sure other president can chime in on this a little bit more too.
Yeah, I agree with that. And just to add on, I think in terms of experiences, I would say not as many times would they call you out for your experience. For example, oh, this experience was so great, for example, like that. It's much more about what actions you take in whatever experience you have. So for example, you could be a very senior executive at one club, but you didn't do as much versus you were a committee member at another club and then you really took on an initiative, you started this and that. And I think in those experiences, you can definitely leverage it in interviews and so on.
Totally. Yeah, I definitely agree. You bringing up the initiative on your own also to bring up your organization and leadership is definitely key. So great question. I hope I didn't miss anyone who asked a question, but we are going to wrap up now. So we'd like to thank all of our panelists. So Itamar, Annabeth, Arbab, and Ashley and Susanna. We really appreciate that you took out times out of your busy schedule because I know September is very, very busy. So Will and I really appreciate it. The whole RCS team really appreciates it. And thank you to our events team for coordinating all of this and putting it together. You guys did an absolute outstanding job. Having said that, we would love to give your contact information if you'd like. So feel free, the panelists, if you'd like to put your LinkedIn or emails into the chat, just so everyone can get a chance to contact you. Just give me 1 second. All right, so now that we have our Rcsa also contact information here, we'd love for you guys to connect with us as well for future events or anything that you need us for. We also have our student life guide, which has all the descriptions of every single group. So whether it's in Rotman Commerce or closely affiliated with Rotman Commerce, please check it out so you can look at all the opportunities there. Thank you so much for taking your time to join us today. And if you'd like to stay back to maybe ask maybe a 30-second question, feel free to do that. But that is it from our end. Thank you for joining us and have a great day. Thank you, everyone.